Joining us today on Smart Talks is Kate Casey, host of the hit podcast Reality Life with Kate Casey, where she dives deep into the world of unscripted television and the real stories behind the headlines. But beyond her sharp wit and media insight, Kate brings a powerful personal perspective shaped by her time at the Milton Hershey School, an educational boarding school for underprivileged children. Her journey is one of resilience, resourcefulness, and using her platform to champion authenticity and storytelling. Kate is an advocate for giving voice to lived experiences, and we're thrilled to talk with her today about the power of representation, the impact of media, and what it means to write your own narrative.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Smart Talks. We are so excited today to be with Kate Casey. I've really looked forward to this interview because you have interviewed and talked to so many fascinating people, and you've just had, I don't know, such stories shared with you. Has there been particular stories or interviews that have stood out to you or that have really affected you on a personal level?
I think the one that I'm asked most about and the one that was most special to me, and to know me is to know I get obsessed with stories. And this book I picked up in Virginia Beach 20-something years ago, it said Soul Survivor, the Reincarnation of a World War II Pilot. I sat on the floor of the bookstore, read the whole book, bought it, went home and read it again. It was that good. It's the story of a little boy named James, and he was the son of these sweet parents in Louisiana. And when he was about 2.5 years old, he started to have nightmares, and the parents started to take notes of the things that he would say, and he would draw pictures of a plane on fire, and he would sign the bottom of each picture James 3. And as time went on, they were looking at these notes and they're figuring out that this is probably connected to somebody who probably died in World War II. They took him to a plane museum. He recognized the names of and knew the names of certain planes. And they deduced that he was a man by the name of James Houston who died in a plane crash. He knew the name of the plane, the ship that the plane had taken off from. And so I finally interviewed the father who had co-written the book. And there were 3 things that stayed with me. He said, one time James was playing with little G.I. Joes, and he was very specific when he chose which ones he wanted. It was like a redhead, a brunette, and a blonde. And he named them Walter, Leon, and Billy. And he asked him, why did you name them that? Because he's thinking Leon, like Leon Panetta, like what? Like that's a very unusual name for a little boy to pick.
Yeah.
And he said, well, it's because they chose me in heaven. And when they looked through the manifest of all the people who had been in that specific squadron, Billy, Walter, and Leon had died before James Houston. Another thing was, he said, one day they were picking up debris in the backyard after a storm. And he said, come here, James, sit on my lap. I just want to love on you. And he said, I just love you so much, son. And the little boy looked up to him and he said, I love you so much. That's why I chose you. He said, you chose me? He said, yeah, you were at the Pink Hotel and you were talking about wanting me. And in reflection later, the couple remembered that they had been on vacation at the Royal Hawaiian Hotel in Oahu and had a conversation while on the beach about whether or not they wanted to have a family. So that's always stayed with me. And the last part was, the mother had asked the little boy one day, what's God like? And the little boy looked up to her and he said, he's everything you want him to be when you need it.
Wow. That gave me chills. That's incredible.
And I think about it all the time. I think about Billy, Walter, and Leon. I think of my friends who struggled to have babies. And I always tell that story. I'm like, these kids choose us for whatever reason. And that God's everything we want him to be when we need it.
Wow.
It's like so simple.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's probably the one that I think about most. But I've spoken to a multitude of guests and there's always something that stays with me. And I'm a crazy person who has a crazy recall. So I feel like I'm bringing them up all the time because it's like relevant to a conversation or whatever it may be.
Did you ever think, like when you were thinking of your life, did you ever think that this is what you would be doing for your career? And kind of like take us through like what led you?
Well, when I was growing up, I thought I would run for office. I thought I was going to go into politics, and I studied political science. I worked at the White House during the Monica Lewinsky scandal, if you can believe it.
Wow, that must have been wild.
Bonkers. And so I always thought I would end up in government. And then after college, I started working in communications. And then I ended up starting my own PR firm, representing law firms doing crisis communications. So I kind of steered away from politics, but and then I pursued comedy for a little bit. It was like I had interest in a bunch of different things, but in the end, I think I found what I'm best suited to do, because I've been somebody who has always, even as a little girl, wanted to talk to people. And I've just been consumed with people's stories my whole life. I was like a weird kid who would talk to the adults at dinner all the time. I'm like, so, who were you married to? Actually, the most Kate thing was when I was a little girl, I used to take out my mom's yearbook from Radnor High School, and I would flip through the pages and ask her, like, where did they live? What streets did they live on? What were all the names of the kids? What did the dad do? What did the mom do? When you went back to the reunion, were they still married? Well, what are they doing now? So I have a photographic memory. It's superior recall for details about people. So I had to almost turn the volume down on it a lot of times. Because I think like creeps people out.
Is that possible to do?
Yeah. The only other person that I've met that has it is President Clinton. They used to say he was a good campaigner for it, because he'd see you and go, does your mom still live on Walnut Street? And did your aunt get that ankle surgery? And that's sometimes it can be unnerving to somebody because they look at you like, why are you stalking me? But I just remember it. I can't turn it off. It's just something weird. And they say it's hereditary. So my dad has it for remembering details in history. And my grandmother had it for sheet music. Like she could look at a piece of music and then remember it. There's no correlation to intellectualism, which is a bummer. Really? So you could have that memory thing, but yeah.
But if you found your if you found your interest or your niche in life, then what a great tool.
Yeah, it's fun. It's definitely fun. But my family's like, stop, because I just talk to people all the time. Like I can't go anywhere and not talk to somebody. One time my husband got mad at me because he was trying to park the car, and he kept calling me, but I didn't pick it up. But I was in a boutique, and the manager was telling me, I've never told anybody this before, but my mom's boyfriend shot and killed my dad in Mexico. And I was like, how was I supposed to pick up the phone in the middle of that conversation?
Yeah.
No.
For real.
Yeah. I do think, though, as I get older, I think it's because when I was in my own family of origin, I felt like I was not heard. I was completely ignored. And I feel like I've tried to heal myself by repaying that to other people. So when someone is talking to me, I want them to feel like they deserve my full attention. It's a small thing.
Yeah.
But I think I've done that as a way to heal my own self.
You felt like you were ignored as a child, or you weren't listened to. That would have been hard. I imagine that would have maybe caused some harsh feelings. Do you feel like you moved past that with your family?
No, absolutely not. I mean, do I think about it all the time? But I think families are funny. You can go back into your childhood home, and I think suddenly you're 6 again, because the dynamics of your siblings, and it's hard to feel like your adult self when you're around all the people that you grew up with. I think it takes tremendous foresight to keep in your mind present, like, I'm an adult. I'm not still, the third child in this family dynamic. So yeah, that's the only place I would say I think I get tripped up. When I go back to Philadelphia, it's really trippy for me. I'm like, okay, I don't live here anymore. This is not, but I don't think I'm alone. I think a lot of people feel like that.
Yeah. I mean, when I go back to the neighborhood that I grew up in, I remember growing up there and having certain thoughts about certain homes or the layout of the neighborhood. And I go back now and I'm just like, wow. I mean, it's the same but different.
Yeah.
And this is not home anymore.
Yeah.
And it feels like yesterday, but at the same time, it feels like forever ago. How do you decide who to ask to interview? I mean, how do you decide what stories to follow and pursue? And how do you decide who makes a good subject?
It's a little bit of a mad genius. And I think everybody has their own little mad genius. If you're a chef or if you're a fisherman, I don't know, whatever it may be. Like my mad genius is I'm somehow processing names and stories all the time in my head, and things seemingly pop up at the right time. Like sometimes I'll put all my episodes together for the week and I'll realize, oh, there was like a full theme that I didn't even note until the end of it. Lots of people approach me about stories. I'm covering things that are in unscripted TV all week. So I've got a working knowledge of what stories are present in media during that week. And sometimes it will spring to mind a story that I heard years ago that I'll find someone and like reach out to them and add an episode. And I guess it still kind of goes with that theme. People will reach out to me and say, I have a story. I just had a woman a week and a half ago who said, I have a story. My best friend from college died in TWA plane, TWA 800, the plane crashed. And she said, I'd love to tell the story. So I said, fantastic. So we did an episode, and then my friend who's a medium, he helps FBI and NYPD. I added him in the end of it, where she got to connect with her friend, and it just all came together. But it was like a last minute thing. And she just kind of popped up and said, I have a story. So it's just kind of like a mad genius thing that is always popping up. It's hard to explain to somebody. Like in the same way, I think someone who sculpts or paints, they can't always explain their process, but it is what it is.
So you've written that, I've seen that you've written that Real World, that series was kind of like one that first drew your attention, drawing into people's lives and what made them the way that they were on the show, and kind of putting different and diverse people all together in a house. And you've talked about how it's kind of like the study of anthropology, watching humans in this new environment. So what series, or maybe it's still Real World, but what series to you is kind of your favorite? What has been your kind of favorite that you've covered?
Well, Real World's dear to me because I went to a school for underprivileged children as a high schooler. And that was the scenario. It was like you're put into these student homes. In my student home, there are 16 girls, 9 through 12, from different places in the country. And then I had one roommate from North Korea who have completely different life experiences. It could be race, faith, culture, etc. And you're living together and you're doing chores together, and you have, one of the chores was doing laundry. So I had to do laundry for all my 15 housemates. When you live with people, you realize how much you actually have in common.
Yeah.
So I really love that school so much. And when I watched Real World, I was home on a break from school. And I thought, well, that's Milton Hershey School. That's just like where I go. Thing. So that was my favorite. It still is my favorite. And I became friends with a lot of people that were on that show. And it kind of was the genesis of my podcast was I want to go and find those people who were on those reality shows and see how it changed the trajectory of their life. But that one is my favorite.
I had a high school boyfriend whose older brother was on The Real World.
What? Which one? Do you remember?
At Cannon?
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah. In my mind, they're my friends. So I love unscripted TV because the story continues. I could watch a scripted show and it's a made up character. And then that's the end of the show. That's the end of it. I love unscripted because you can circle back. Like even one of my obsessions was this plane crash in Chile, or these rugby players, and they survived. It was the subject of a documentary called Alive. It came out when I was like in high school. And I got it out of Blockbuster and watched it a million times. My mom was like, seriously, there's something wrong with you. But then I went back and circled back with the survivors years later, just to see like, how does the story continue? I mean, much like your own story, if somebody interviewed you at 30, the way you look at your experiences and your life is different than 33. And so that's the beauty, I think, of unscripted TV is like, it's a never ending evolution of self-growth and perspective.
That's such a great way. That's such an interesting take on it.
When it comes to people, and I mean, I asked it about stories, but I guess the people in the stories, are there ever like boundaries for you, or do you feel like any question is on the table?
No.
And how do you navigate that, I guess?
I grew up with a mother who was a sexual assault victim. And I think victims and their stories I'm very sensitive to it. So I think there is a way to finesse talking to someone who's been through. First thing I like to do is to compliment them, because just to wake up every day and walk through the world is often a huge achievement. If it's somebody who's an advocate, I like to acknowledge the work that they do. And I always think it's important to ask someone, like, if you're comfortable with this, would you mind walking me through this? And then as they do, you kind of, a lot of interviewing people is using your intuition. And I think women in particular make fantastic interviewers because we're nurturers. And I think that if you give someone respect and you give them a voice, people open themselves in ways that they wouldn't necessarily do for someone else, especially when you make it clear to them, my intention is for you to use your voice and to use your own power, and to remind them that by doing so, they end up unknowingly healing someone who may be on the other side, listening and walking through some very difficult waters in their own life. And sometimes what a stranger says feels more powerful than somebody who's in their own orbit.
Do any of these stories, do you ever feel like you have to draw a line between yourself and the story? Like, does it ever get too close to you, or you're just like, I have been so consumed in it, like, I can't be the parent I need to be right now, or I can't be who I need to be because this is just too, like, it's infiltrated my life too much?
No. But I think it's a condition of my childhood being traumatic, is that I learned to compartmentalize. And some people think that I'm an empath. I think you may be a little bit of an empath. I don't think I am, because I can really disconnect from something and move on. And that's truly an empath, someone who feels the weight of someone's emotions even after they've left that room. So no, I don't ever feel that way.
That's interesting, though, that you say that you're not an empath, because I think that you've covered like there's such empathy in the way that
I'm
interview,
empathetic
and
I'm understanding,
but you're able to separate your own life
but
from that.
I don't ever take it on.
And you don't take it home with you.
But I still wrestle with, I'm like, am I innately that way? Or is that the byproduct of a childhood that was traumatic? I don't know.
It's interesting. I think that's great. I think it's incredible that you can turn that off, not bring it home. I know we both struggle with that sometimes, with the stories and
I think that's why I don't want to watch true crime, or I don't want to get into dramas or killing or anything like that. Because even if it's, okay, true crime is obviously true, but like the other stuff, like even if it's made up, even if it's not real, like that is still human emotion, and all those things can and do happen. And like, I just don't think I want to see someone else's trauma be the last thing I see before I go to bed.
Well, if you hear a story like that 2 days later, are you still thinking about that person?
I mean, I guess it depends on the story, but it wouldn't be uncommon.
I also find that I was always like a justice person, even as a child, where my husband's like, you're not passive aggressive, you're aggressive aggressive. And there is a layer of it. Like if someone comes to me with a story as they have on my show, I will follow up and go, okay, this is what we're going to do. I always made a joke. If I had a TED talk, it would be, I don't effing think so. Because that's just like my mentality. Like someone messed with you? Like, I don't think so. Like we're cutting that off.
Please do that.
I love that. We would support that TED talk. I like that.
But, I think so. There's like, there's a part of me when I interview people, and I talk to a lot of people afterward, and I think my crisis communication background helps too. Where I think sometimes I talk to people and they can't really voice for themselves like how they're feeling. And so sometimes in the interview or after the interview, I'm like, I think what you're trying to say is this. Or if it's needing to speak up for themselves, I want to help them with that. But I don't necessarily take that on and feel burdened by it at all.
Okay, I want to go back to, we talked about your internship at the White House and like your interest in politics, and you always thought that you would be in politics. But how did that experience at the White House, how do you think that helped in your career trajectory or prepared you for what you're doing now?
Well, since it was during the Monica Lewinsky scandal, I would say that I was naive at that point to imbalances in power, because I went there in the morning to drop off the clips. I was there dropping off at the Oval Office, like the clips. So I was there in the morning when no one was there. And I just thought, if there was an intern here, someone would see. I feel like I'm watched the entire time. And so I was naive to power imbalances and how people will cover for one another if they feel like they're not in a position of like a power in a business or in a government. So I think that was an interesting shift in perspective that happened because of it. I think it was a unique experience in learning about how you really have to create the life that you want for yourself. Like, I was surrounded by everybody else who came from families with money and privilege, and I came from the opposite side of the door of opportunity. And I would get so annoyed at first, like, everyone's going to lunch at the Hay Adams and they got here because their dad got them a job, and I had to work so hard. And I thought, I can sit here and complain about this for the rest of my life, or I can make success for myself. And I've kind of carried that with me. Like, if I want something, I got to do it myself. I can't wait around for someone to give it to me.
I love that.
And I also had to let go of my anger that someone else got something easily that I didn't, and realize that has nothing to do with me and my success or my ability. That's their own journey, and I can't take that on.
How do you do that? How do you let go?
Because it doesn't serve me.
Well, like, I agree with everything that you're saying, but like, I think a lot of the people that I've interacted with, they don't know how to let go. Like, how do you do it?
Yeah. Well, I think about all the people in my life who need me, and, you know, my husband and my 5 kids. And every moment that I waste thinking about somebody who will never change their opinion about me or never change their life is taking away from the experiences and the love and the joy that I can give my husband and my kids or my friends or the people that listen to my show. It's like, life is about balancing your time and your joy. And if I waste it thinking about someone who doesn't celebrate me, like, why am I giving them my power? I always feel like every conversation I have with my daughters, especially when it comes to friends or boyfriends, it's like always comes back to, why are you giving someone your power? And we do it too often.
Yeah,
Totally.
Okay, you've talked about circumstance and going back to Milton Hershey School, where you attended. You've written, or you've said before, that students there have a survival chip.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that? I thought that was a really interesting perspective.
Well, first, let me tell you, the Milton Hershey School was created by Milton Hershey, the chocolate magnate. So he was an only child. His parents died when he was quite young. And he created a caramel company, which turned into the chocolate company. And he got married to his wife, Kitty, and they tried desperately to have children, to no avail. And in the meantime, he's built this massive fortune. So he decided to leave all of his money to a school for orphaned boys. And his wife ended up passing away, and then he passed away. But before he died, he told the New York Times, when asked, where is all of your money going to go since you have no heirs? And he said, the boys of the Milton Hershey School are my heirs. So he passed away, and the school in 1976 changed the deed of trust to accept girls. When I was there, it was 1,200 students, and it's a free education because the school owns 72% of the holding stock of the Hershey Company. I believe it's still the amount. It's worth about $16 billion, the company. That includes the entertainment company, et cetera. So now there are, I believe, 2,400 kids, kindergarten through 12th. So every time you buy a chocolate bar, you are giving a child from, as I said, the wrong side of the door of opportunity, a chance to get a free education. So you live on campus and you live in these student homes, and you get a substantial amount of money for college. I think I got $4,000 a year when I graduated. But everybody is from either an orphaned or a single parent family. You have to have financial and emotional need. So I grew up in a house with my mom, and soon after, my stepfather. I was totally estranged from my dad. I now believe that he was probably working as a spy in Ireland. during the Troubles. I reunited with him when I was about 32 years old, and he is crazy town. My stepfather was emotionally abusive. And so my mom found this school, Milton Hershey. My sister went first, and then I went. I loved it because it was the first time I felt without shame about having a very dysfunctional family.
Yes.
And I felt like in suburban Philadelphia, everyone else's parents were still married and perfect. And I have all these complicated dynamics, and I can't explain. I cry myself to sleep every night, etc. So I go to the school, and everybody had wacky families. Most people I find that come from traumatic childhoods have a great sense of humor because it's a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
So I went to the school, and I had an absolute blast. Like, I made great friends, but there was a freedom in feeling like I don't have to explain where I'm from.
Yeah.
And then everybody had a great story. Like, everything for me is like a great story. I always say to my kids, be around people that are interesting and interested. They need to ask questions about other people. They have to be interesting. But being an interesting person is a lot based on your life experience. The experiences that you've had, the people you've met, how much you've studied, all of that makes you more of an interesting person. Everybody was interesting. But the best part was when the parents would come pick up their kids, because I want to know the backstory of the parents.
And you got to see these dynamics kind of play out then.
It was amazing. There's this one dad, he was the daughter of 2 girls in my student home. And I mean, he showed up to pick them up and clearly had been on a bender, like wackadoo town. And he's in 70s clothing, bell-bottom pants, not the right decade. And I was just fascinated by him. And one of the things they told me was that one Christmas, he took a New Kids on the Block poster and had forged the names of all the band members on the poster. I thought it was the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life. But to me, I think I was beginning to like formulate in my head that people are characters. Like, even as a kid, I loved watching TV shows. And at one point I thought, I need to release this shame I have about my own family and start to think of them as characters in a sitcom. Like, I'm the narrator of this weird family dynamic. So if there's a show, like it's like a Wonder Years and I'm the narrator. And that really helped me because I started to look at them less as embarrassing and more thinking about their picadillos, what makes them unique. And then when I met friends at Milton Hershey and their parents, I thought a lot about that. Like, what is this dad's backstory? How is he here right now? And how is that going to change the way they look at life? And for me, even in my show, it's a lot about like, what is the lens through which someone looks at life? And not being annoyed by somebody for the way they've built their own ideologies, because it's always based on like where you're from and the experiences that you've had. So I really kind of look at someone, even when I'm interviewing them, like, what's their origin story? Like, who have they been? Where have they been? It all kind of makes sense in the end.
Love that. It is interesting. I try, like, obviously no one's perfect, at least I'm definitely not. But like lately, I've been trying not to like just have like knee-jerk reactions, because I'm like, I don't know what they've been through today. Like, like that person that just flipped me off on the freeway, who I had no idea who was trying to get over.
Someone is flipping you off on the freeway.
Well, just like, I don't know if they're trying to get over. I don't know. I don't know. But I'm like, it's fine. They don't know me. I don't know them. Maybe they're like rushing to the hospital. Like, it's fine.
Also, like, I think comedians, they try to look at people too for the things that make them unique. And see it as funny versus like mean or nasty.
Or shameful.
Or shameful. Like Archie Bunker, remember, from All in the Family? Like, he was this curmudgeon character. Then you think about it, he's like, he probably was, you know, the character was raised by parents who were vets. They didn't have any money. He's an introvert. He's not happy with his life. Like, you start like breaking down someone's character and you kind of go, okay, well, I have empathy for them. I get it.
It makes sense. Yeah.
It makes sense. Yeah.
I do. I really respect just like your perspective that everyone has a story. And like, what is that story? And like you can't really judge a person if you don't know their story.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really good way to be.
I always say to my kids, when you go on a play date, come back and tell me 2 things about the parents.
I love that.
Because like kids need to talk to parents too and find out what their story is. Like my kids here, their school, they have a bunch of kids that have come from Ukraine. And I had a bunch of boys in the car and they were talking about what was going on at school and this group of kids from the Ukraine. And I said, okay, let's talk about what these kids have experienced. They're 7th graders. And then breaking it all down, they're like, yeah, you know, I didn't really think about it. Like, you got to think about like, and then I said, you need to celebrate them. Have you ever said to any of these kids, I think it's really impressive.
Yeah.
You've totally come from a new country. You have to finesse a new language, live in a new community.
Completely different culture.
Yeah.
Yeah. And heal from the trauma that you've probably experienced in that country, given what was going on. Yeah. I think when you say it like that, it makes it so simple and almost easy to have empathy for people.
Yeah.
That way. Yeah. And then I think it's such a great channel instead of anger. Like you mentioned, it really resonated with me when you said, like, instead of being angry about my own experiences or that I came from the opposite side of opportunity, like you used it, I think, as a driving force. And I think that's so impressive.
Well, another thing is too politics. Like if we spent less time thinking about why someone likes a particular candidate and start with ask them questions to figure out their ideology.
Yes.
Like, oh, they grew up in a home that's conservative, or they wanted to go completely against what they were raised as. And then it takes less frustration away from you and you don't take it so personally because you realize their political opinions are based on something that's so dissimilar than my own journey. Yeah. You can't take it personally.
Yeah. Makes it less volatile that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We need a lot less volatile in politics these days. I mean, I just keep telling myself, I think most people, not everyone, but I think most people really genuinely do want what's best for their neighbor, for their families, for their communities. And like whatever they're fighting for is genuinely what they think is best or is most likely to solve the problem. And like, I think having that in mind also helps because otherwise you're just like, no, you're wrong and I'm right. It's not, this is for the betterment of our country.
But if you sat in someone's home and you had coffee with them and you found out about how they grew up and you said, I completely understand where you are in your life right now because of where you've been. And then you said something about yourself, like, I'm feeling this way because, and then you share something about yourself personally, I think it cuts the tension. And then that person looks at you in a different way.
Yeah. Okay. I want to know, I'm kind of curious because we've talked about your career and kind of what led you here. What is the achievement you're like most proud of?
Okay. I'm a wacky person. I don't know yet. I don't think I've done it.
Maybe you haven't done it yet. I love that.
Yeah. I'm like a nerd. Like it was a 12-year-old giving my mom the cover of Newsweek. It was Jennifer Capriati and it said 13-year-old phenom. And I looked at my mom, I said, I feel like I've accomplished nothing. She's like, you're crazy. So I'm a person who in my own life always feels like I'm at the bottom of the hill and I gotta go somewhere else. Like I gotta get to the top. So I don't know. I don't think it's happened yet.
But I love that because it sounds like that's always driving you.
Yes.
Well,
I read this Wall Street Journal. No, it was Harvard Business Review article a long time ago. And it said your business acumen is often tied to your relationship with your father. It was this reporter's perspective, but they said children who were abandoned, and they gave like Barack Obama as an example and Bill Clinton actually, that they tend to be overachievers because you're trying to get recognition from someone who will never give it to you. And that is me for sure. Yeah. I'm trying to prove to my dad and my parents and my sister that, you know, I've achieved something and I know I'll never get it, but it's like, that is the thing that drives me most. And
so it kind of gives you an edge, maybe a little bit.
Probably. Like I'll wake up earlier than everybody. I'll stay later. I'll work harder. Yeah. But I think there is some truth to that is like, everybody has like a common thread. There's something that they're working through. and I don't care if you're 75 years old, you're still working through it. For me,
Yeah.
it's wanting the recognition of a dad and a mom. And my mom would be like, you're crazy, like you're fine. But it's like, that's what drives me. It's not anybody else in the world. So that's my life. Like, yeah, I just keep working towards something that I'm never going to get. It's done.
But also, like, from what you've described, like from where your life began to where your life is now, it is a very different spot.
Yeah.
From like,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's very different, no matter how you want to look at it.
But let me say, I would not take back 1 minute of anything that I have been through, painful as it is.
Yes.
Because I feel like I'm a much better collaborator. I'm much more empathetic.
Yeah.
I'm more sensitive. I'm more kind. I'm more generous. I'm a better listener. All of those things because of the experiences that I've had.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell my children the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't take it back. And pain is worth it because pain forces you to pivot.
Yeah.
It forces you to be resilient, and all those things are essential in me being a great advocate, to being a good interviewer, being a great mom, being a great wife, a friend, all those things. And, you know, I think when you're younger, you go, for me, God, if I had grown up and just gone to the public high school and stayed in town, I would have been a boring person. And that's the thing. I go back to what I said to my kids, like, you want to be around interesting people. I don't want to be around somebody who's lived like a real linear life. Mm-hmm. I want ebbs and flows, peaks and valleys. I want all of it.
Yeah. So why do you think then, because I agree, like, I look back on my life and I think, oh, it would have been, you know, easy for me had I never been kidnapped, had I never experienced all of that. It would have been easy for me to kind of leave like the sexual assault space alone, the kidnapping space alone. Mm-hmm. And if those stories pop up on the TV, I could probably be like, well, they were drunk.
Right.
Or, you know, they really shouldn't have decided to take the shortcut through the dark alley. Or like in my mind, I try to justify it or like build space between myself and the story so that I could comfort myself into thinking that could never happen to me. Like, I think it would have been easy for me to honestly go down that line. So I agree completely with you because like after I did experience what I experienced, it has made me more empathetic. It taught me so much. Like, it opened my eyes in so many ways to other people's experiences. Why then do you think, because for the most part, I guess I still feel like, yeah, if you've experienced something hard, I would hope that you'd be empathetic. Why are some people not? Mm-hmm. Why do some people go through things and they still hate everyone and everything around them?
It's just easier. It's easier. It takes a lot of endurance to crack yourself open and to see things in a broad scope. That takes time and patience. And I just think people, especially in the current times that we live in, people want immediacy. And for a lot of people, it's life's work. It's a life journey, and it requires a lot of listening and gratitude and walking through pain. And it's work. Yeah. And I think that's easier to just be angry at the world and sit in your own little bubble. And it's also hard to take your own life experience and then flip it and help other people because, like I'm assuming for you as well, you have to sit in pain at some point every part of your day if you're in advocacy work to help children and women and others not have an iota of the pain that you've experienced. So that requires you to sit in something every day. And a lot of people don't want to go back there. So it's a choice you have to make every day to help other people.
So do you feel like you sit in pain every day?
Yeah, in some ways, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Because I have to think of my own life experiences when I interview somebody. Like, does that resonate with me? How did they get to that place? I have to walk through my own journey to kind of see where somebody else is.
Yeah.
And I mean, and as a parent, you know, when you go through parenting, you're reliving your own experiences, whether it's as simple as like your kids have challenges with their social group, or I have one child academically, it's much more difficult than others. And I have to think about a lot of my own experiences. I also think motherhood is interesting and unique, especially when you come from a traumatic childhood, because in many ways, when you have a child, you're filling the holes that have existed, but it also opens up new ones.
Yeah.
And that's challenging too.
Yeah.
So I just think the more that we all talk about how we feel and our own experiences, we realize we're all walking in the same path and we can help each other.
Yeah.
And talking about things, I think, releases a lot of pain and shame.
Absolutely. And reduces the stigma and normalizes some of the experiences, which I think is really important. Who is your dream guest? Like, who are you just dying?
Thank you for asking that. Because, Elizabeth Smart was one of my top 5.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Making it happen.
I've said that on my show a million times.
Dreams
you were on my bucket list.
Dreams coming true today.
Yes. Michael Phelps, George W. Bush, Lance Armstrong, Elizabeth Smart. I interviewed your former publicist, the guy who wrote the book about
Chris Thomas.
Yes.
And you didn't just say?
Tell Chris Thomas. I said, I want to interview Elizabeth. And he goes, I will totally tell her.
Chris.
What?
Falling down on the job, Chris.
I asked one of the housewives, the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. I was like, can you hook his sister up?
I love this.
She was like, I'll try as best as I can. I feel like everybody dropped the ball. And then it was a listener that said, Elizabeth Smart's going to be in Newport Beach. I go, finally?
So funny. That's so funny.
And as you know, I told you, everybody thinks I'm Mormon. Yeah. So I thought, one of my Mormon people will come forward. And they did.
That is I love it.
Yeah, Elizabeth Smart.
I'm so flattered.
There we go.
Dreams coming true.
I'm next to Michael Phelps
I love
and George
it.
Bush.
I know.
Yeah.
Also, that's a great list. Yeah.
He would be very
list.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, all of them would be very interesting.
Yeah. We'll have to tune into those. You'll get them one day.
It's got to happen.
I mean, it has to.
Yeah.
Wait. Well, it was
Don't
such
you
a
feel like,
and you got
don't
me.
we look like we could be related too?
You look like you could be great friends.
Can you just
I think this is the beginning of a beautiful
Photoshop
friendship.
me into a family photo.
Well, Kate, it's been a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much for coming on Smart Talks.
Thanks. It was a blast. Yeah.
That's it for today's episode of Smart Talks, brought to you by the Elizabeth Smart Foundation. Thanks for joining us as we dive into these important conversations about creating a safer, more compassionate world. We hope that what you've heard challenges you to think deeply, feel more compassionately, and see the world through the powerful lens of a survivor's truth. If today's episode resonated with you, or if you know someone who would benefit from hearing this, please share it with them and consider subscribing. And leave us a review wherever you're listening. We'd love to hear from you. Connect with us on social media. You'll find us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. If you would like to support, you can make a one-time or recurring donation of any amount at elizabethsmartfoundation.org/donate. You can also find more resources and ways to get involved on our website. Thank you for listening and being a part of a community that listens, believes, and works together to create a future where no one has to suffer in silence.